This is the KnightShift podcast, powered by Black and Gold Banneret, your home for news and analysis from all UCF Knights sports. The KnightShift starts now. Welcome to KnightShift. Jeff Sharon here with you on this Monday, October 20, our last show in the month of October, guys, already. We got Eric Lopez in the house. We got Donnie on drums and Bryson Turner as well on keyboards. Don Struble was joining us. I know he appreciates that. Shout out to the drummers out there, man. Donnie, so in the audio booth, Oscar Garcia is also a drummer, and he runs audio in the stadium. So awesome. It's just nothing but drummers out here, which is great.
Yeah, man. That a lot of drummers become sound engineers, believe it or not, and
because they know what they're doing. That's
I don't, but like others might.
Okay. Well, what's the kit though, Donnie? What's the kit? What do you got?
I have a Tama Superstar kit.
Oh, so you're a Stuart Copeland fan, aren't you?
I like his drumming. I don't like the Police.
Oh God, Donnie, everything was going so good until then. Just that we can debate that. Okay, so Tama, and then your symbols are what?
I have pretty much all Zildjian, like mix of K and A customs, and I have I think I use like one little pasty splash, but other than that, everything else is Zildjian because that's what I was raised on. Those are the two brands because my dad plays, and that's what he got me on. So
okay, well, let me ask you this: who's your guy?
Who's my guy?
Yeah.
Classic rock. Well, so
anywhere, I don't care. It could be Buddy Rich. It could be Phil Collins. It could be could be Taylor Hawkins. God rest his soul. Whoever you want.
Yeah. Now I think obviously Neil was great. But I grew up playing to Chad Smith in the Chili Peppers. That's what taught me to groove because I'm all self-taught. I never took lessons. Also Collective Soul. I really like their drummer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a player. And then I have like modern guys too, like from this era, but like those are my favorite from like, when I was like growing up, my dad's vinyls, all that stuff. So
excellent. I am loving this Donnie Doc's lore.
I am loving it.
There you go, audience. Now
we know more about Don. We can talk we can talk drums with Don. Busy night on the Sports Equinox, gentlemen. We got lots to talk about. We have we're going to preview UCF against Arizona, the space game. We have Hall of Fame coming up. We're going to update you on the Olympic sports. But first, the big news today that broke on blackandgoldbanneret.com and is also up on our socials right now. A shakeup in the coaching staff for UCF football following the loss on Saturday to BYU in a game that, I don't know, I will say walking out of that stadium, the energy was really, really dark, coming out of that stadium. And it felt like something broke and something had to change. And Coach Malzahn did just that. The primary thing that happened, Ted Roof is out as defensive coordinator. Barely more than a half a season. UCF 86th in scoring defense, 107th in passing yards allowed, 79th in total defense. It just wasn't working. Addison Williams is now the full lone defensive coordinator, a job that he had previously. Roof was brought in to help out, but Addison is now back. He now has control of the defense. And then one other move in terms of coaching on field, Gus Malzahn also announced that Tim Harris Jr. will take over the play calling duties for the offense. Gus had been calling the plays, which initially, Eric, I want to start with you. We had thought that he would relinquish the play calling, then he took it back, and now he's giving it back again to Tim Harris Jr., who is, again, offensive coordinator, but he wasn't calling the plays, but now he is calling the plays. So let's start with this, Elo. I'll start with you. Like I said, it really did feel like something had to be done after Saturday. I guess my question is this one of those situations where this is something, therefore we must do it? Or was this the right move and may have been brewing for a while?
I think it's a move to start on 2025. I think you want to find out A, is Tim Harris your long-term answer as the offensive coordinator? B, you go back to Addison. Is he your long-term defensive coordinator answer? Or what? I think it's partly that. I think it's partly, you try to do some things differently. The Ted Roof deal didn't work from a defensive standpoint. If you look at the defensive stats, they're better against the run, but they're far worse against the pass. If you really look at their numbers, they're giving up 27 points per game, 2 more than last year. And that's not including the 2 soft games of the non-conference games. If you go conference games only, they're giving up way over 30-plus points. So defensively,
54
just wasn't
more. I think it was over 50 more yards than last year. And I ran the numbers in conference games this year, Eric. UCF has given up 34 or more in 4 of those conference games, and they've lost 3 of them. The only one they won was the TCU game, and TC was just allergic to defending anything. So
it's a worse defense when you could, and they would tell you they probably felt they had more talent this year on defense than they did offensively, than last year, I should say. Excuse me. Offensively, the change is interesting. You look at them; they're not too far behind offensively. In fact, their rushing game is better, but their passing game took a massive drop. I don't know if play calling changes that, but maybe it does. Maybe you look at it a different perspective. I think the bigger question will be, with Tim Harris is coordinating, who's going to be his quarterback? Yeah. Is it going to be Jakari Brown, or is it going to be Dylan Risk, or is it going to be EJ Colson? And I think that's a factor in this decision. And let's not underestimate recruiting. There has been some decommits. I think that also plays a factor in some of these changes, both sides of the ball. It is that kind of year, right around November, where you start kind of sending little messages about what's ahead for 2025. So I think all of that contributes to what we saw today. And I don't think this is just the beginning. I don't think this is the last of moves that we will see on this staff or this roster between now and December of 24.
Don Struble, you were pretty, you broke this thing down pretty well on Night Shift the other night. Now that we have the benefit of time and a little bit more information, what is your read on this? And, do you foresee like there might be a quarterback change as well?
I think that this is just another attempt to deal with the 5-alarm fire that is this season. I didn't really, when I look at the history of Roof and his resume, but first of all, would you technically consider him a retread hire? Because I believe he was with UCF in 2011, correct?
Well, he was here in 2011. He was hired in the early part of the year, and then he left a month and a half later to take another job. He got another offer, and UCF let him out of his contract. Matt Rochelle reports that UCF, I think, is going to owe him, what was it, Eric, $1.1 million over his 2-year contract.
Yeah, that's right.
To the tune of
Donnie, go ahead.
This season, $700K in 2025. So it's almost like this metaphorical fire. A lot of it is tied to money, because you go out and you get a KJ Jefferson who costs a lot of NIL money.
Mm-hmm.
Wash, busted. And then you do this, and now you owe this coach another $1.1 million. And it's just like, it's just back and forth and back and forth. And I think I saw Mike Bianchi tweet out, he's like, what is it, Groundhog Day? Because it seems like Gus Malzahn can't make up his mind. Like, he wants to relinquish the play calling, pick it back up. He gives it up again, fires his DC. And I'm not saying that firing Roof was the wrong move. When you look at the statistics, it shows that this team is just not defending well. I mean, their best defensive performance might have come against Iowa State, and they still gave up 38 points.
Right.
So it's like, despite the 2 turnovers. And so I think that this is just another way to try and fix a sinking ship. And I don't think it's going to happen this year. I'm not even really sure what's going to happen against Arizona.
Bryson, do you think that I want to talk about the players, because, turmoil amongst the coaching staff, it did feel, every once in a while you'll just catch like a little bit of frustration out there on the sidelines or, in between breaks. What do you feel like this move does to the players?
I think that this move will either tank the season for them or uplift them, because Well, it's interesting.
I got to hold you to one. You got to pick one.
All right. I think it's probably good. I don't like it personally. I think I honestly might be the only person that that seeing Ted Roof get fired, and I'm thinking like, because here's why. The defensive play calling, definitely bad. The secondary coverage has been absolute garbage. From that call standpoint, that glad the Roof is gone in that regard. That being said, the linebackers, which Ted Roof had purview over, are been massively improved with the likes of Deshaun Pace and Ethan Barr.
Have they? Have they, Ro? Have they really?
Look at Deshaun Pace. He's been
what
one
about
of the best players on the team after RJ Harvey.
I haven't heard from him since the TCU game.
He's been pretty quiet. I'd say, I mean, what did you get?
He's also been fighting off a couple of nagging injuries also.
Well, I mean, the real star.
But then again, and Barr was too. Remember, he was out the second half of the, I believe the Cincinnati game. He was in a hoodie on the sidelines, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the real star of the show on Saturday was Dotson.
Dalen Dotson.
He's been fantastic.
Really been good.
Yeah. Well, and that's
one silver lining.
Well, and that could be a small sample of why Ted Roof's not here. Dotson has flourished since being moved back to the defensive end spot, his natural position. When originally he was D tackle, we didn't hear as much. So you wonder again. It's hard to tell. Yeah. You wonder in the closed rooms, was there some differences of philosophy when it comes to personnel and where you put them? That could be a question mark. I don't know. Nobody's in that room, but I do think that's a factor. Secondary had questions. Here's a stat for you. This year, so far, UCF's defense, right? Aggressive, right? Remember, Ted Roof, we all were in media day.
Right.
Press rush, pressure, all that. 11 sacks this year. They're on pace to have less than last year when they had 21 sacks.
Man, that's terrible. Wow. I will say, Deshaun Pace, second on the team in tackles with 38. The leader is Quadric Bullard with 41. Ethan Barr, 37 tackles, third on the team. X-Ray Alexander has really stepped up the last few weeks. 37 tackles in total, 2 quarterback hurries on his part, plus 4 tackles for loss, which is actually third on the team. Dalen Dotson leads the team in tackles for loss with 7 and sacks with 3.
Yeah.
So he's been a fine. And I think they kind of took the wraps off him after it became, I think, pretty obvious that John Walker was not going to return this season due to his injury. That allowed him to kind of, they took the reins off of him and let him ride. But no rest for the weary, because UCF does have the space game on Saturday, 3:30 p.m. In come the Arizona Wildcats, who started 3-1 and we thought at the end of September, guys, that this Arizona team might be a threat, because they beat Utah in Salt Lake City 23-10. And that was right after they lost at Kansas State 31-7 in Manhattan. But since then, 4 consecutive losses for the Wildcats to Texas Tech, BYU, Colorado, and by 5 points to West Virginia just this past Saturday. The BYU and Colorado games are blowouts. They were not really competitive. This is not a very good offensive team, which is not what they were anticipating, considering that they have Noah Fifita, they had a quarterback they had high hopes for. They are 100th in the country in scoring offense at 23.4 points per game. And they're 71st in middle of the road in total offense. Defensively, they are 91st in scoring defense, giving up 28 a game, and 69th in total defense at 367 yards. So, and I think this kind of adds up to the situation where they're kind of in the same spot, both statistically and in win-loss record, that UCF is right now. Eric, I want to go back to you on this. This is the space game. UCF has never lost one. This is the 8th try. What are the odds on this one?
It's your best odds. UCF's a 5-point favorite, baby. Misery loves company. You think we got problems? Go to Tucson. They got massive problems. Their defense is all injured, banged up.
They've been a disappointment, don't you think, Eric?
Oh, big time. Well, the coaching change hasn't helped. Going from Jed Fish.
Yeah, Jed
Fish
for Washington. That's right.
Yeah, Brett Brenham. That's clearly not worked. Offensively, they've underachieved. Defensively, they've had a lot of injuries. And again, they're not, it just hasn't worked out to this point. So, yeah, I mean, we said this last week. We said we circled this game as really UCF's best chance to get a win. And I would say this, if you want to go with some optimism, you look at the schedule, you got Arizona at home. You've got Utah at home on the Black Friday. Utah just lost to Houston. They've lost, 4 in a row. They're struggling to score as well.
Well, that's they've been the biggest disappointment in the Big 12 this year. They were the preseason favorite.
Utah and Arizona are two of the biggest disappointments.
Yeah.
So if you're UCF, if you can just get off the schneid somehow, some way this weekend against Arizona that's depleted, you win that game. Let's say you play a Utah team that I don't think will be motivated come Black Friday. This is a bunch of players that have used to playing for the Rose Bowl, not like to play for like some December Bowl. So if UCF can win those 2 home games, all you got to do now is split a road game either at Arizona State or West Virginia, and you're 6-6. You get your bowl game there, which Kyle will get excited. He'll celebrate as much as as a Paolo Banchero triple-double. So
which by the way, anyway.
There you go. But so the path is there for the bowl, but they have to win this game against Arizona. You lose this game to Arizona, then I don't know what else to tell you.
Donnie?
It's a tale of 2 struggling teams. It might be the only other team in college football that's imploding worse than UCF, and they happen to be in the same damn conference.
That's a little strong. No.
And maybe it might be a little hyperbolic.
I mean, I've watched Purdue play. They're bad.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you make the good point with Utah too. I mean, but this is the last chance to right the ship and try to turn this into some sort of positive spin on the season and maybe make Kyle Nash's 2 favorite words, bowl eligibility. But I don't really know how much this team should be worried about that at that moment. I think this needs to be like 1 week at a time. And yeah, they have to win this game because if the fans know that they are undefeated in space games. And if they drop this, that might be an empty bounce house moving forward by comparison to what they're used to. Because, I mean, I've already seen people in groups giving away 4 tickets to Arizona, giving away tickets here, there, everywhere. Yeah, something needs to happen. And ideally, I would like to see a role player that we don't expect pop off. It's time, whether it's one of the QBs in the QB carousel or we get something from somebody else. But with the loss of Kobe Hudson, like I look to Magwood, to maybe ascend and rise to the occasion. That could be possible. But,
Jacoby Jones, man, he had a good game the other night. And I know, Elo, you were really high, and rightfully so. He was fantastic.
He stepped up. He stepped up. This is an opportunity for guys to step up, not just for the rest of this year, but 2025. This is a chance to make a name for yourself moving forward. I think it speaks for the receiving core. I think it speaks to the quarterback group. I think a kid like Dylan Risk, I expect Dylan Risk, if he's not at least starting, I think he'll play on Saturday, and I think has an opportunity to make some impressions here. I think there's some other younger guys on this roster. That's part of this. I know people don't want to hear that.
Javarius Johnson's gotten some run, too.
Javarius Johnson. Yeah. Play the guys now to help you build towards next year, and find some answers. You never know. That's what you got to do at this point. Nothing, I think to me that's the proper move. We'll see if the coaching changes help. A different voice in the room. As the old cliche is, you can't fire the roster, but unfortunately you have to get rid of somebody else to make that happen. But the Addison's very tight with the players. Maybe that will help the defensive side on some things. They certainly were better against the pass with Addison as the D coordinator last year. Is that a factor in all this? Who knows? But this is the opportunity. It's all circled around getting a win here against Arizona. If you win against Arizona, I think everybody feels a little better about themselves. You go to Tempe thinking, hey, maybe we can build on this. You lose this game, then, then at that point, you've tried every trick in the book. I mean, I'll say this. I understand everybody's criticizing Gus for everything right now. They're criticizing how he looks, his haircut. Who knows? I give him credit for this. He is trying to fix it. It's not working, but he is trying. And he's making moves, and it's just not worked out, unfortunately.
You could kind of sense, that there was that something had to be done. I guess my last question here, predictions for you guys. Right now, ESPN has UCF as a 74% chance to win, according to ESPN's own proprietary and extremely opaque analytics. As Eric said, 6.5-point favorite is UCF. They opened up 6. Stark contrast to what we saw with the BYU game, where BYU opened up with the favorite, and UCF was a favorite by kickoff. Man, I don't know what happened there. Irrespective of the line, Don, we'll start with you. Yay or nay, UCF, and what's going to be the big key?
Yay, I'm not taking those points. I think it's going to be closer than that.
Okay.
I think it's going to be closer to like 3. I think this is going to come down truly to a field goal. I think that Arizona is probably going to play pissed, if anything else. They're upset at the way their season has gone, just like the Knights. So, you get 2 teams on equal footing. Key here is going to be the pass game. Just everything can't go through RJ. What are you going to get done without Kobe? Is Jones going to step up? Is Magro going to step up? Because, Jones, I know, like Elo and I talked about the other night, while a lot of it came in garbage time, I think he had 6 for 116 in the TUD. So, that's good. That's a nice start. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. But, yeah, I'll take I think UCF is going to right the ship, but I'm not going to take those points. I don't think that almost a touchdown. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not that.
It's going to be this is Eric. This is the loser leaves town match, isn't it?
Yeah. The thing is, though, a lot of those Arizona players didn't sign up to play for their current head coach, whereas the UCF players did. That's the difference. I'm not buying. First of all, the whole they're going to come out mad, and that's such a cliche media thing we like to say. Oh, they're going to be fired up because what, they weren't fired up last week. All of a sudden they were. I wonder if Arizona's checked out or not. I think getting off to a good start is so pivotal. I think what gets lost in the BYU game is BYU got the ball, they drove right down the field, scored, took a 7-0 lead. UCF got the ball, punted on a 4th and 1 where I thought Gus should have gone for it, didn't. BYU got the ball, they went for it, got a first down, got a field goal. Got to play from the lead. Play from the lead because I think
then you can let RJ Harvey do his thing.
Oh, and I think these are 2 teams that right now. Their psyches aren't great. If you're Arizona, they've been falling behind a lot. And I think that if you could get on them early, that could bode well for you. Now, UCF's going to get challenged because McMillan is one of the best receivers in the country, and UCF has certainly struggled against the pass. So,
and the last thing they need is Noah Fifita to decide to get hot.
Yeah, and he's very mobile. Like I said, their offense is underachieved. I think some people are blaming the coaching staff. You go from Jed Fish to that. How much are these players from Arizona bought in? Don't let them buy in. Get off to a good start. And then I really think the first quarter is so key there and play from the lead. I don't know about the spread thing. Who knows? This team, I can't, they might come out and play great. They may not. Who knows? I would stay away from the numbers, but I do think UCF is due to win a game like this. Just like, so I think and there's a reason why they made these changes is to maybe get a spark that way, whether it's fair or not, whether you agree with it or not. I do get a sense Gus is still trying, and I still get a sense that most of the players that are playing still care. And I think that's a big thing. I'm not sold on Arizona in that regard, so I'll take UCF.
Long trip. Bryson?
I think there's going to be 2 keys for this one. Number 1, score when you're in the red zone. If there is actually one thing that Arizona has been decent at this season, is this red zone defense. I'm seeing they're 4th in the Big 12, 46th in the nation in red zone defense. So you got to
UCF is 94th in red zone offense. 80%.
Yeah, so
that's a great stat. That's a great stat, because a lot of people, the offense has struggled, this or that. A lot of it is more on the red zone they've struggled. If you look at the stats offensively, they're not as far apart this year versus last year, other than obviously the passing game is significantly down. I get it. But I think people would be surprised that this offense this year has moved the ball. It just
down also.
No, that's a great point. I'll give you a stat. I have a lot of stats here, folks. Last year, UCF offensively, 50% on 3rd down conversions. This year, 41. Conversely, defensively, last year, 39% defense conversion teams against UCF. This year up to 43. Get off the field, stay on the field. Some of this stuff's not that complicated. We can try to complicate it all we want. There's a lot of little details there that tells you the story of why they are where they're at.
Yeah.
But so that was key number one. The red zone offense needs to get in there because Arizona's been pretty good in the red zone defense. Number two, on the defensive side, Noah Fafita has been connecting very well with might butcher this first name, Tyra McMillan.
Yeah, McMillan.
He leads the Big 12 in receiving. So that's definitely somebody in the secondary you're going to want to lock up. And then Tyler Loop is also one of the better Big 12 kickers out there. And considering that Arizona State has not really been able to get to the end zone all that much, he has been a big scoring driver for this Arizona team. So I would say you need to make sure you lock down McMillan and then see if you can try to keep Loop from field goal, because that's probably going to be the way that Arizona is going to get points, is through the field goal with Tyler Loop. And so this will be interesting This will actually be an interesting kicking matchup to me. I think Tyler Loop versus Grant Reddick.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not, please. No.
We don't want it to get that close. Nothing against Grant Reddick or special teamers, but I think if you're UCF, you're like, we need to actually handle this thing and handle it well.
But those are two keys. I think two keys. I think two keys. But I think UCF, should they do those things, then we should be able to at least edge out Arizona.
All right, Eric, FS1. Who's doing the game? Do we know?
Dan Healy will be the play-by-play man with, I believe, Robert Smith will be your coach. Whether they're
Robert Smith, are they going to be here or no?
It's FS1. Who knows? You'll know before I do, Jeff. You let us know.
Robert Smith. I hope Rob's listening, because Robert Smith is one of my favorite football players of all time. He was a tremendous back at Ohio State. And I don't even like Ohio State, okay? Let's just be honest. Great back at Minnesota. Retired early. I think doesn't he have the highest average yards per carry for someone who's played as many games in his NFL history? I forget. But has a keen interest in astrophysics, which is another thing that I really like about Robert Smith. So I hope they're in town, because I would love to meet him. So
we'll find out. You'll know before we do, because you'll be in the booth before we are. But yeah, Dan Healy and Robert Smith will be calling a game, maybe on site, maybe not on site. Who knows?
Robert Smith, what a champ. He was running back on those good Vikings teams, and Randall Cunningham and Chris Carter and Randy Moss.
Yeah, Dan Healy, former local TV sports day in Orlando, right?
That's right. All right. We're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk a little Hall of Fame this weekend. Huh? All right. Something that we've all been looking forward to. We'll go over the class, and we've also got some soccer and volleyball to talk about, and we will get a little peek ahead into basketball. They're starting play on Monday against Texas A&M. We'll talk about that more when we return. This is Night Shift. For all the latest news and analysis from every UCF sport, visit blackandgoldbanneret.com, your home for the UCF Knights on SB Nation. We bring you all the latest news and in-depth analysis from across Knight Nation, from football and hoops to golf and tennis. If you want to stay on top of all things UCF, visit blackandgoldbanneret.com, powered by SB Nation. We're back on Night Shift. Jeff, Eric, Bryson, and Don with you here. As Kyle is out covering the Orlando Magic, he just saw Paolo Banchero go off for 50 tonight. That's pretty awesome. Eric, is that Paolo's first 50-point game?
Yeah, that's a career high.
All right. Not bad. A little history here in Orlando on the sports equinox. Because we have baseball, we got football going on, Giants and Steelers, and obviously basketball and hockey. Speaking of all kinds of sports happening at once, this is Hall of Fame week at UCF. And what a class we have going in. Chris Duffy from baseball, Mark Giacone from football, long time, well-deserved. I remember we did a podcast with Mark Giacone a few years ago. Just a great story. Glad Mark's in, another fellow Jersey boy with me. Shaquem Griffin, duh. Ashley Holder, women's golf, the first women's golfer in the Hall of Fame for UCF. Anne Marie Blaney, friend of the pod, Anne Marie Blaney. And of course, Kirk Speraw, head men's basketball coach at UCF for 17 seasons. Elo and Bryson, you guys have been, at the forefront of our Hall of Fame coverage, and in particular with this class. Elo, your thoughts on this class and how we're gonna see them on Friday at the Celeste Hotel. They're gonna do a little media availability there. Obviously, Shaquem and Coach Kirk are the headliners. This is a
sold out event.
Class.
I'm pretty sure. I believe it's sold out too. And
yeah,
I would imagine for those two being the headliners, absolutely no question. I mean, we've talked about Shaquem, arguably the best defensive player in the history of the UCF football program.
The greatest ambassador, I think, the program.
I wrote about that column. Thank you on Banneret there back when that was announced in August. I think very fitting that he's the first guy from the 17 team to get inducted to the Hall of Fame. I'm pretty sure he'll have a fantastic speech there. I'm super happy for Kirk Speraw, which really made basketball at the Division I level relevant. We've written about this and discussed this. When he took over the UCF basketball program, they were arguably the worst Division I college basketball program in the country. They were if you look at the UCF basketball track record in the 80s, it was bad. And he brought them into respectability. I think he hooked a lot of fans back in the day. Even the old arenas really didn't work with much. Got him to 4 NCAA tournaments with 4 ASUN championships. Great to see him get inducted. I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of basketball people in that ceremony at the ceremony. I'm sure the Michael Donnells, the Taylor Youngs, Jermaine Taylors, etc. I mean, you name it, they're all going to be there. So I think that's, you talk about home runs with those two. That's an easy one. Then you mentioned Ashley Holder. You're arguably the best UCF women's golfer ever, certainly of the 21st century. Multiple times All-American honoree, led him to multiple conference championships. I think if you asked Emily Marin, probably the best golfer she's had to date in her program. First women's golfer, that's probably a travesty. There should be more women's golfers from previous years that should be in. But nonetheless, got to start somewhere, and she's certainly a perfect start to that from that standpoint. Then Anne Marie Blaney's the greatest long-distance runner in UCF history, period. And it's not even close. There's not a debate. She's the Wayne Gretzky of long-distance runner. There's just not even
look at the record books. It's her name all over the place. Yep.
Without doubt. So, and then you mentioned Marcia Combe, part of those teams in the late 80s, early 1990. So it's a strong field. It's a strong class. Not an easy job by the committee. There's certainly some people you can certainly wonder if they should be in or not. Chris Duffy, who Bryson and I recorded with on Monday, we'll hope to have that up on all our platforms this week at some point. The greatest baseball season ever, 2010, Golden Spikes finalist. You know, Jeff, here's a little trivia since there is the postseason. We are in the World Series. Maybe, Don, you're a baseball guy, Don, so you may chime in on this. Who won the Golden Spikes? Who did Chris Duffy lose the Golden Spikes to in 2010? I'll give you a hint. This guy has played in the big leagues for a while and is, I would say he's more than good at his craft. I want to give it, he's certainly considered one of the best baseball players in the world.
Mike
Bryce
Trout.
Harper?
Say that again?
Mike Trout.
No, there was another guest there, though. Who was
Bryce
the other
Harper?
guest? Bryce Harper was the world winner.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
2010. Bryce Harper won it. Other notables, Yasmin Grandal was in that mix. Chris Sale, who was at Florida Gulf Coast, was in it.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's a who's who, and Duffy was in that mix. Duffy's probably arguably the best power hitter in the history of this baseball program. Was recruited by Rich Wallace, who was on the staff of Jake Bergman.
Yes, he was.
Well-deserved. To be honest, I'm surprised Duffy didn't get in sooner, but I think it's well-deserved for him. So, again, super strong class here in 2024 for this UCF Hall of Fame class.
Interesting. Harper, he wants to Harper. And Harper was at a junior college, I think. Is that right, Eric?
Correct. Yeah. It was all the buzz there and everything. I mean, the hype machine was there. I remember it was a little controversial that he won it. Anthony Rendon was another guy in the mix from Rice, who obviously had a great big league career. It was a who's who
That was a hell of a draft that year, too.
Hell of a draft. Somewhere right now, Brian Murphy is salivating at all the baseball talk here with the big league talk.
All right. Last word, real quick, Bryson. Who are you excited to see on Friday night?
I am very excited to see Anne-Marie Blaney again. We'll get to meet for the first time in person, so that's great. After the amount of times I've talked with her, I'm very excited to see her finally get her flowers in the first opportunity for the chance. And that's the other big thing that's really cool about this class. There are Ashley Holder, Shaquem Griffin, and Anne-Marie Blaney are all first ballot Hall of Famers because you have to wait 7 years after you're done before you can get inducted. And so all 3 of them are first ballot Hall of Famers. Meanwhile, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, Mark Giacone gets inducted after 34 years since he played his last snap at UCF. That is tied for the longest time an individual player has had to wait to get inducted, tied with Lou Cioffi, who finished playing soccer in 1979 and didn't get inducted until 2013.
Well, I'm happy for. I mean, first of all, it's going to be great to see Coach Kirk. It's going to be great to see Mark. It's going to be great to see everyone who's actually there because the stars all come out. This is the Hall of Fame is. You know what I like? The Hall of Fame starting to become kind of UCF's Academy Awards a little bit. You see some of the younger people coming in now. They're around with some of the veterans. It used to be a sort of Letterman clubby kind of thing. Now it's become an event. And I'm really
and hopefully, and I know they're working, and hopefully they're working on this. I think eventually, maybe the long-term goal is to have it in the arena versus the hotel.
I would hope so.
Because trust me, it's a little cramped as somebody who's been there the last handful of years.
It's getting big. It's getting big. That's by the way, that's what they wanted too. They wanted it to be like that. So, all right. Hall of Fame festivities will be Friday night at the Celeste Hotel, and we're hoping to be there and bring you some of the reaction from the red carpet. Or the black and gold carpet, as it is. Or maybe, since it's Space Weekend, the Canaveral blue carpet.
Or just the hotel carpet.
I'm sorry, I've overwrought the analogy. Okay. Let's flip over. One other thing we got going on here this coming week. Now, all right. Men's basketball will play Monday night. They're opening the season against Texas A&M. By the way, hit up blackandgoldbanneret.com where we have our basketball preview up. Everything you need to know about the 2024-25 UCF men's basketball team. Women's preview is coming up on Wednesday. Don and I worked on the preview. And again, this is kind of a unusual situation as we get, they're starting against a ranked team in Texas A&M. We saw them in the one exhibition game against Florida Gulf Coast, Don, where they looked just fine. But again, it's an exhibition. You're not going to want to put too much on the film. They have one more exhibition game at Georgia and on tomorrow. That's Tuesday night. No TV for that one, which is kind of a bummer. There will be live stats on UCF Knights.com. Kind of a bummer that game's an exhibition. That would have been a really good way to kick off the season too, playing Georgia at Stegman. But nonetheless, we get one more look at him to see what's going to go on, and even though we won't be able to look at him because the game's not being televised, before Texas A&M. So A&M, Buzz Williams, the head coach there, they come in number 13 in the country. What's the lay of the land right here, Don, based on, not just what we've seen, but, what are to you, give me the big question mark that we're hoping to get an answer for here in this opening game against a good opponent in the Aggies?
Well, it would have been to see how the backcourt comes out swinging. Obviously, the loss of Jalen Sellers and the mystery surrounding his injury is throwing some things off. So now I think it pivots to how much playing time does Mikey Williams get? Because, he's the star of the show here. He is the most alluring transfer that they got, I would say, arguably, just with everything that he brings and all the hype in tow. With
Sellers being hurt, it stands to reason that even though we didn't see him that much against Florida Gulf Coast, we are going to see more of him probably against Texas A&M.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is going to be quite the test. This is playing Florida Gulf Coast. This is not the Florida Gulf Coast of old that once took down Georgetown 10 years
Yeah.
ago in the tournament. You know, this is I saw their ranking. They are a couple hundred back. I mean, they're not projected to be a good team this year. So Texas A&M, I mean, that's going to be a punch in the face, and they have to be ready to punch back. I mean, that's an SEC school, like you said. Buzz Williams at the helm, ranked number 13. It's going to be no joke. And I think, yeah, we're going to see a healthy mix of Mikey. We're going to get JUCO scoring machine Dior Johnson, who averaged 29 a game last season. We're going to need that because your leading scorer just went down in Sellers. I don't expect Darius to carry the load. I want to see really what I'm intrigued about, Jeff Sharon, is Mustafa Chiom. I want to see how physical he's going to be down low after Coach Dawkins talking about the strength he's put on at Media Day. I want to see how he reacts to an SEC team.
Yeah, he
like
is
this.
imposing, when you see him, and but you can see, the talent is there. He just has that sort of, he does look like a raw freshman.
It's raw,
which you're just going. I mean, you just have to accept that. And the question is going to be to me, do you see him? Does he put more on the table than he leaves off of it, just based on the fact that he's a freshman? He hasn't gotten college minutes yet, and I think you can kind of say the same thing about Mikey Williams to an extent too. You don't know what it's going to be like. An exhibition is an exhibition. When the lights come on and you're playing an SEC team like Texas A&M, who, by the way, got throttled by Houston in their own exhibition by 15 points at the Fertitta Center, how do they react? I'm always a big fan of the Mike Tyson quote. Everybody's got a game plan until you get punched in the mouth, and you're going to get punched in the mouth real quick against the Aggies. That's a Buzz Williams coach team. Buzz is a tough coach. He likes tough players.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going to find out real quick, but, I like the fact that, we have a lot of depth at guard.
We do. And I will say, I liked Mikey showed incredible humility during Media Day to Bryson and I. It really seems like a player who's grown and learned from his past mistakes. He knows that he has a chance to prove himself beyond the internet hype. And now is his moment. And there's other guys too. I mean, Jordan Ivy Curry was an excellent player last season at UTSA. I believe that's where he went, right?
Yeah, UTSA.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. And though he didn't shoot the ball well in the first exhibition game, he led the team in assists. So it's like we're going to need everyone to fit into their role and play complete basketball the whole time, 1 through 5. I mean, we're going to – a lot of what I talked about last week on the pod, timely switching, not giving up those open threes. I think they'll be in good position. But, yeah, that guard room is intriguing because it's very full and it's full of a lot of guys who can score.
Yeah, and if it works out the right way, I think the right formula is, like you said, the switches. I thought that at times, in seasons past, sometimes they would get caught on switches defensively, be a little bit slow. Now the speed out top, I love watching Dior Johnson. I love watching him. I really love watching him play. His offensive numbers, from his past speak for themselves. We know he's a human bucket, but defensively, he's lengthy. He's and I mean this in the nicest possible way. He's annoying as hell.
Yeah,
and which is exactly what you want in a defender. And Mikey, I thought the same thing about what you said about Mikey. Like this is now the lights are on for real. This is no it's no longer
blue chip all-star team San Ysidro.
It's no longer AAU. This is for real now. And I think the other thing, and he realizes this, he's smart enough and mature enough to realize this. I think every guy on the other on every night out there who matches up against him
wants him. They want to take his head. Yeah,
exactly. They want to go right at him because they know that it's going to end up all over the place. right?
Well, and that's something I liked about Mikey too was, we saw a couple flashy moves. We saw, the up and under layup and stuff
Oh,
in the
he
exhibition
can
game.
finish,
There was,
man. Oh, man.
yeah, he can. He's nasty finishing, down in the post and stuff. But one thing that really caught my attention is there was a possession. He picked up full court defense and was just hazing the absolute hell out of their point guard and just like body on him,
True.
avoided fouling. And I'm like, yes, you are buying into Dawkins' defensive culture.
Yeah.
And if they can turn him into a two-way player, watch out.
Yeah, he's got the talent to do it. There's no doubt about it. And I will say this too. I'm hoping that we see Jalen return. I'm hoping that what we saw the other night, as scary as it was temporary. And but I do think that we're going to see a lot of Darius Johnson playing off the ball, which I think is going to be real, because he had his 3-point percentage jumped 13 percentage points from last year.
Oh yeah, he heats up.
Yeah, go ahead, Donnie. I'm sorry.
No, I cut you off. I was just saying, yeah, he heats up. 5 of 8 from 3 in that exhibition. And again, this is projected to be a no disrespect, a bad FGCU team. It is an entirely different story with Texas A&M. But if he can get to his spots and the ball movement is healthy, I think that we can see him pop off again.
Yeah, go ahead, Elo.
Well, I was going to say John A. Dawkins on the Big 12 Media Days that was broadcasted told Chris Button and Fran Fraschilla that they think Jalen will be okay. No surgery, no talk of surgery. Doesn't need any of that stuff. So,
but that is one of those things that's going to be, it's going to nag.
Sure, no doubt.
That's what I get worried about. So,
did
they say what it was?
No, Johnny kept it tight-lipped, so they wasn't gonna. They alluded to some back issues and things like that, but Johnny didn't really go into specifics. Yeah. All he just said that he thinks he'll be okay. They're taking it day by day, and kind of kept it very under wraps. And again, what is important is Jalen knows the system. And one of the challenges and we'll get into this as we get into basketball season is, yes, that's great. You got a lot of individual talent, but can they all blend? Can they all fit? And they're going to get a real test because A&M brings back 80% of their roster, including an all-SEC performer who can put the ball in the basket. So it's going to be a tough challenge right off the bat, but chemistry will be a key factor early. Does it fit? Can they be a defensive team, Johnny Dawkins style? You mentioned that they struggled a little bit in the first half. Again, I don't want to take too much from exhibitions. Teams are trying things out. I wouldn't worry about too much of that, but I think that's the big question: is does the pieces fit, and how long does it get them to gel? Sometimes we get that takes a while. Sometimes.
I understand this is almost 2 months before conference play begins, but this really sets the table as a proving ground because it's going to be hard December 21st on. It's going to be a rough time for them if, this is a great first test because there's no other team of this caliber. I mean, Greenbrier tip-off will be interesting against a Wisconsin, some of these bigger schools, but this first test is going to be huge heading into conference play down the line for this squad.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket and overreact to one game because I think that's a dangerous deal.
There's a level of unpredictability to college basketball as it is. But I think it will show us, even if they lose by 2 points, if they play a good complete game, it shows that they're moving in the right direction.
Right.
He's got the squad on track. So,
and the other thing too, I think that's really important. The fact that they played these 2 exhibition games, granted one of them against FGCU, but FGCU is not, Rollins or Flagler, I think we talked about before. And then also one more on the road at Georgia, another SEC team. It's kind of like, Johnny's kind of taking these 2 exhibition games, kind of like their NFL preseason games. Let's actually play an actual opponent, rather than scrimmage here. And even though we're not going to get their best shot, you're going to learn a lot more playing an exhibition against Georgia in Athens than you are going to, playing against Palm Beach Atlantic at home. Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no. And that's a good point. And he left the starters in for a long time, even when they were really starting to separate against FGCU. He really wanted to see what he got. A little tidbit that Bryson put in here. Congrats to Ibrahima Diallo for getting drafted by the Austin Spurs. It's going to be interesting seeing, if he can make his mark in the league at any point. And now we get to see his replacement in Mustafa, and we'll see what he can get done.
Yeah. I know it's going to be fun to watch. And I do like seeing, you were talking about how long is it going to take to gel. I think it'll take a little bit less time now that we're playing, given that we played that competition already. So November 4th, that's Monday night, 7 p.m. Elo, is that game on TV?
No, ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus. Man, that's a bummer.
Yep.
Well,
that could have been on ESPN.
I mean, again, well, this is
I know
why
it's Monday night, so it'll be or maybe ESPNU or something.
Baylor Gonzaga is the marquee game that night. That's going to come on at 11:30 on ESPN2. Gives you an idea about how many.
Holy!
It's after the football game.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
also another good point. Women's basketball plays their first exhibition match tomorrow against Edward Waters. We're going to get a healthy look at Big 12 leading scorer Caitlin Peterson again, and now she's got some more help, as Coach Messer alluded to on Media Day. She has more bullets this year. We get to see incoming transfer center Hannah Gusters, who averaged over 14 a game for the Cowgirls last season. We get to see Layla Jewett in her last ride. Her and Darius Johnson, you don't I mentioned this in the previews, you don't see a lot of that in the modern basketball landscape, players staying all 4 years. So I think it's going to be a special season for both. I wish them all the best.
Especially Layla, who's been through 2 coaching staffs. Usually it's obviously, understandably, I think so much easier to transfer when there's a coaching staff change. Layla stuck around. She's the vet. And we get to see her and Caitlin and all those and everybody else. Their opener is the night after the men against Iona, 7 p.m. on Tuesday the 5th.
And I'll give you one more dark horse on that women's team that I think is going to be good. Nevaeh Brown, she might be good. I'm telling you, her numbers at ETSU were awesome. And she has experience playing on a bigger stage during her time at Wake Forest. So I think that she could be a good X factor guard coming off the bench for them, if that is her role. But much like with Coach Dawkins, Coach Messer is going to have to find where these players fit, and she's going to have to characterize those roles for them. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun year, guys.
All right. Men's basketball Monday night, women's basketball Tuesday. We'll be covering that. And also make sure you check out everything you need to know about UCF men's basketball, our basketball preview post on blackandgoldbanneret.com, and look out for the one on the women that's coming up on Wednesday. Let's move forward as we finish up here. Talk about a little soccer and volleyball. I've got to bring Bryson in here. We'll start with men's soccer. They suffered a tough one against Georgia Southern. I felt like they really needed that one, Bryson. They lose 2-0. They have 2 games left. Home for South Carolina, and then at Coastal Carolina. The South Carolina game is senior night. What's the situation right now with the men? Because they finally got Luca Dorado back. They finally got Juanvi Munoz back. And then they leave that one on the table. So what do they need to do here, not just to ensure their position in the Sun Belt, but also the RPI?
Well, the good news is they beat Kentucky also this week. So happy birthday to Drew Hansen, by the way, who got 2 goals in that game the day after his birthday. So well done right there. But they do have another chance to really improve their RPI, because South Carolina is ranked 46 in the RPI. UCF is at 57. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but the men's soccer tournament has 48 teams.
48 teams. That's right.
Yes. Okay, I'm right. Good. So I think South Carolina is a must win in terms of UCF improving their RPI to at least get right at the bubble when the Sun Belt tournament hits. And then, of course, Coastal Carolina is also very much a must-win game as well, but on the up for a completely different reason. Coastal Carolina is 141 in the RPI rankings. Now, this is on the road. It's so that will be interesting to look at. Of course, they face Georgia Southern on the road, losing 2-0. Look, going on the road is a hard thing to do in college soccer. Georgia Southern has been a deceptively solid team this year in the Sun Belt. I was feeling bad about that game for a while, but you got to win these next 2 in order to put yourself in the best bubble position going forward. And then you go in the Sun Belt tournament, And you could potentially get matched up with the likes of Marshall, West Virginia, and James Madison, who you did not play with Luca Dorado and Juan V. Munoz.
They're going to need to get one of those games at least in the Sun Belt in order to really help themselves out. Because right now they're 57th in the RPI. That's not good enough. But yeah, they're really up against it right now too. So, women's soccer, this was kind of rough because 2-2 draw against Cincinnati on Friday night in their last regular season game. What's the latest on women's soccer?
Well, the latest is that they're done for the season, Jeff. A 2-2 draw was not enough for them to make the Big 12 tournament, though they did screw Cincinnati out of the Big 12 tournament berth by the draw. So,
well, it's silver lining to that dark cloud.
Yeah. Hey,
no, that's not true. That's not true. Cincinnati got in. Baylor came from behind.
Oh, they got in. Oh,
Baylor came behind. I saw a bracket with them in it.
No, Cincinnati snuck in.
Oh man,
Doesn't matter. We didn't get in. That's all I care about. We didn't get in. That's all.
UCF end up finish off 131 in our RPI, and then this is their first losing season, Jeff, since 2000 when you don't count the COVID year. Man. And then what's even nuts to me is you look at the conference schedule. UCF women's soccer finishes their conference schedule this season with just one Big 12 victory. That is less conference wins than they got in the 2020 COVID year. So, which was all conference games. They were 2-4-1 that year in the American.
That was in the spring
the
too.
Big 12 this year in 1-5-4. Overall, I think this is definitely a fairly low point for the squad this year. It's unfortunate. Chloe Netzel's reminding me so much of RJ Harvey because she ends up getting another goal in that Cincinnati matchup to get 11 for the season, 30 for her career. Just absolutely unfortunate that an offensive talent like that had to go out of her college career like this.
Elo, when we write the book on this season for UCF women's soccer, where do they go from here?
That's the question everybody wants to know. Obviously, it was a tough year. A lot of young faces, a lot of new faces. Some injuries certainly hurt them up front and in the defense. Coach Sahedek, we did the interview. It's on the YouTube channel. Look, they got a lot of work this year, this offseason. They've got to replace Chloe Netzel, who is a tremendous goal scorer, 11 goals this year offensively. So they got to replace her, whether that's in the roster. I don't know if that's in the roster or not. They may have to go in the portal, get somebody like they did with Netzel. Backline, I think they had some injuries. McCullum got hurt them a lot. They had to depend on youngsters like the freshman Sylvester there that was pretty good, but they're young there. They got to still get a midfielder. I don't think they've had a midfielder since Daria Rajaei that can control the pace and control possession. I thought UCF got outplayed from a possession standpoint most of the year. So there's some things they got to address, and I think it's an important offseason for them because, again, this was a tough year. Yes, they were inexperienced. Yes, there was injuries, but there's a high standard on the soccer program. So they got to fix some things. They were young at goalkeeping. I think they feel pretty good about Perez Watson, goalkeeper. I think she grew up a lot, but those are things they're going to have to address. Upgrade in the back line, probably upgrade. They need a solid midfielder, and they need a goal scorer to go along. Now, I think Brooke Maroney is somebody they like moving forward. There's some other youngsters that didn't play as much and got some injuries that they think they can contribute, but surprising to miss the Big 12 tournament, I think certainly is going to sting, and I think it's going to thrive them through this offseason and in a very important offseason into a very important year in 2025.
Yeah, this felt like it was it's the classic example of just the season where you find out like really how hard the climb is. And I think women's soccer really did find that too. So congrats to Chloe, 30 goals, man. That's
in her career. Great career. She'll play professionally. She'll make some money. But I think UCF teams across the board in all sports are finding out when you're in a power conference, there's a physical and a mental toll that does take effect. And I think UCF's finding out in a lot of ways. Real quick on men's soccer, 0-5-1 against quad 1 and 2 teams. Going that's not going to happen. They're going to have to not only beat South Carolina and win out here, they're probably going to have to get to the semis or the final just to have a shot to get it. Because again, it's a 48-team field. Looking at projections, James Madison, who's the third team in the Sun Belt, is the last team in right now by many projections.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it gives you how tougher. If it's 64, it's a different tone. But the men's got a lot of work to do on that regard, and certainly women's soccer wants to get back to that starting next year. Get to that mix.
Yeah, JMU right now at 40. So UCF 17 RPI slots behind them. So if your goal is to get to 40, got to hurry up. You got to get these last two. South Carolina's 46, so that'll help you out. 11 spots up. And then handle what win out against Coastal, and then I think you're right, Eric. Like you said, you got to.
Well, it sounds strange.
If you do make a run, that means you're going to get one of those top 10 teams, most likely.
That's what you're going to probably need. You're going to have to either beat a West Virginia, beat a James Madison, or Marshall to get that resume booming up. They're lacking that right now.
All right. Last but not least, UCF volleyball. Bryson Turner. Speaking of just the Big 12 just taking a toll on a school, they came up short against Kansas at home, number 8 last Saturday, and then Friday on alumni night, kind of a bummer because they lose to Houston in 4. This is a really good Houston team. That Eric, a couple years ago, we were like, wow, that's going to be a team to watch right now. They recognize the 2014 team, which won the conference championship 10 years ago. They have, as we go down through the schedule, they have plenty, the whole month of November left to go. Their last match in the month of October will be Wednesday, Halloween, at the venue against Cincinnati. But Bryson, where are we right now with volleyball? And obviously Cincinnati also struggling themselves at 2-6 in the conference, UCF at 1-7. This is a gettable one, but you got to get it.
Yeah, UCF volleyball right now is actually at the basement of the conference in terms of RPI. They're actually 179 in the RPI rankings, one spot behind West Virginia. So who they split matches with, one winning at home and then losing in Morgantown. This is definitely a good get for Cincinnati, but they're going to have to possibly do it without Emily Wilson, who exited the Houston match with injury. That is the second outside hitter that head coach Jenny Maurer has lost to injury so far. Ava Armour has also been out with injury for a few matches now. Heidi Bonde stepped up quite a lot last time. Sasha Cohen got a career high in kills in the middle blocker position. I think if anything with this volleyball team, they're very young. We knew this going in, and so I think that volleyball is actually might well take a similar approach to football, where you play your young players, you get them experience and get them ready for 2025, so they have the most experience possible going up against these pretty rough Big 12 opponents. And
they have two matches. Texas Tech is kind of lower middle of the pack right now, and they go to Lubbock on Saturday, the 2nd, before they come, and then on the way home they go to Fort Worth on Thursday the 7th to play the first of 3 straight ranked teams. You got 18 TCU, like you said, Bryson, 17 Baylor, 20 BYU, 22 Utah.
Not ideal when you're shorthanded.
And
not ideal when you're full strength.
Not great, Bob, but
not great, Bob.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to figure. It's on the schedule anyway. You're gonna have to play them. And if
this is
that experience, like Bryson was talking about, Eric, you may as well do it against the class of the conference.
That's the key. You got to play your young players and let them grow and learn on the fly, and that's what you got to do.
Kind of a weird one coming up on the 23rd, also right before Thanksgiving against Florida in Gainesville. Very late non-conference match too, but against another ranked team nonetheless. So, it's gonna be a rough ride the rest of the way. But you never know. Sometimes your heroes for next year suddenly emerge in these kinds of situations. So,
Lee Mackenzie Milton in the Cure Bowl.
Yep, exactly. So, all right, that'll pretty much do it for us for tonight. One last thing we wanted to talk about, and do yourself a favor, don't look for it on social. Taylor Hendricks suffered a pretty nasty injury.
Very bad, really bad.
On for the Utah Jazz, and we wanted to send our regards out to him because it was not good. Please do not look at it on social. It's gonna, the reports are gonna be not great. We're wishing him a quick and full recovery from the injury that he suffered tonight for the Utah Jazz. So I hate to end it on a down note like that. You guys got any good news coming up?
Well, people wonder why players leave early to go pro.
This is why.
Because you get paid. That's the good news is he's getting paid. Not, again,
he's financially secure.
He got paid. Can you imagine if this happens? Like, this would have been in theory his junior year, right? And as selfish as we can be at times, saying, "Well, we want this guy to stay. What if they stay?" Well, where's the problem?
Could you imagine if it happened against Tulsa?
Right now, who's going to seal? At least, and I give John Calipari used to say this all the time about the players. That's why they let them go, because you just don't know, man. It could leave in a moment, and hopefully that's not the case for Taylor. Taylor was projected to get more minutes this year with Utah,
and he was getting more minutes in these first.
He was going to start spot starts too, and boy, I just saw that as we were recording, and it looks bad, really, really bad for this year. Thankfully, there's more medicine, and certainly. Guys can recover from injuries like this, whereas maybe 20 years ago they cannot. But he's got a long way to go. Unfortunately, that's geez.
Yeah, Donnie, last words.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off of Elo's sentiment, that's a shame. It's a tough thing to end on. Wishing him the best. It was a rough one. That's the worst one I've seen since Gordon Hayward in 2017. So
that's a good comparison. That's a good comparison. If you remember Kevin Ware at Louisville in the NCAA tournament,
that one was one of the most horrible things I've ever seen.
That's pretty similar to this. This is bad. Yeah. I'll end it on a positive note. I will end.
Go ahead, Eric. You and then Bryson have good things to end on here.
Fall ball, baseball, softball going on. I was actually at fall ball for baseball Friday night. I'm going to end it on a happy note because, man, that Hendricks story is bad. So fall ball, I catch a youngster, Jeff Sharon, named Luke Matola, hitting for UCF. Yes, that Luke Matola, who is the son of Chad Matola, who's of course the UCF Hall of Famer,
Syracuse Chiefs legend, Chad
Matola. They were, and I got to meet. I was there Friday night. I called the soccer match against Cincinnati. Then I went over to volleyball, hung out with some of the alums. Then went over to baseball to catch the few outs. And me and my good friend Kevin Reese, longtime legend at UCF, covered UCF back in the day. We got to meet the Matolas who were there. Chad Matola.
Chad was there?
Well, yeah, think about it. If you're Chad, this is your best chance to see him play because when the college baseball season starts, he's at spring training.
That's right.
Who knows where the Rays are going to be playing this year. That's a whole other story for another time. But it was Chad Matola, his wife, Emily, who is one of the great setters at UCF volleyball. Emily Kaiser is now Emily Matola, the all-time leader in assists.
That's right.
She's the wife. She was there. She's the mom. She will be there at a lot of the baseball games. And the daughter, who's also a setter, high school setter, who just committed to Arizona State. So be playing in a couple of years at Arizona State, the Big 12. Probably that's a good family genes there. But it was pretty cool to see all the Matolas there. Supporting Luke, who's wearing number 45. I did not know that until I was informed about it this past week. So a UCF royal family, if you will, with the Matolas there. Bryson, I know, got to see them on Sunday night. Matola hit a double in the fall ball. We don't know what his role is or any of that stuff. We'll get into that down the road. But cool story, UCF family royalty there with the Matolas.
That is cool. Bryson, last word?
Yes. So I will say a UCF athlete that did some good things this week. True freshman women's golfer Mila Jurin finished in the top 10 overall in the team's final tournament of the fall schedule. You can hear about the rest of the team's performance in that tournament, along with a couple of other UCF teams we could not discuss on my nightcap, which you can read on the blackandgoldbanneret.com.
All right.
Sorry, Jeff, had to plug that.
We got all right, so that'll do it for us. We appreciate you guys again. Shout out to Taylor Hendricks. Hope he's doing all right. I know Tyler's certainly going to be thinking about him as well. We wishing Taylor a very, very speedy recovery. All right, so make sure you follow us on socials. I am at Jeff Sharon on Threads. Eric is at Eric Lopez Elo on X. Bryson is at It's Bryson Turner everywhere. Don Struble at Don Documents 407 on X, and Don's been killing it on socials for us as well. Don't forget the student of the game, the SOTG, Kyle Nash, on socials. Also, make sure you follow us collectively at blackandgoldbanneret.com, the home of UCF on SB Nation. Check out our YouTube channel as well, where we have all the latest, including the press conference from earlier today with Coach Malzahn discussing the personnel changes. You can also follow us on X at UCF Banneret _SBN, Facebook also at Black and Gold Banneret, and Instagram and Threads at Black and Gold Banneret. So for all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret and KnightShift, for Bryson, for Eric, for Don, I'm Jeff. Thank you so much for listening and for also your tremendous support on our socials as well, as we're creeping up towards 1,000 followers on YouTube. We're almost there. Tell your friends. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret and KnightShift, I'm Jeff Sharon. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you for the Space Game on Saturday.